Wargaming have just released the brand new Valhalla tanks, and today I'm going to showcase this one, which is of course the best one out of the bunch that I have played, the most consistent at dealing damage. And there might be a reason for that if we go over to the store and we check out the prices of these vehicles. You can see we have the Allfather's Spear, which is essentially the gun gear. This is a tier 9 tank destroyer, similar to what you would see with the STRV line. Of course, then you have the tier 8 vehicle, the Levatine. I've probably butchered that name, but it's essentially what you can imagine a Tornvang that's slightly different. And yeah, it kind of plays the same. It was not particularly that great, but there'll be a review coming out very soon on that one. The Thrungva, which is a Kranvang era 1 essentially, and then you've got the Odinson's Hammer, otherwise known as the Mjolnir, and there's a reason this tank is very good, and I wouldn't assume it has anything to do with the price, would it, being the most expensive of all of the tanks available. This is a Detente era 3. And checking out the news article that we do actually have for this, you can essentially get a 25% discount with a earn operations style thing that's going on to do with honor. If we go into the challenges, you have to pick essentially one of the different gods. And yeah, I don't know, I pick which one, yeah, let's pick Thor, for example. And so that one is going to give us the discount on this vehicle. So essentially each of the ones that you pick, so whether it be Thor, Loki or Freya, you'll get a discount on the premium tank of 25%. So because we pick Thor, we'll get a 25% discount on the Mjolnir. So when we actually earn the honor within the game, we'll be able to get that. Now, because I didn't pick it prior to playing my games, we haven't got any honor. So that you make sure that you do pick wisely with which one you can choose, because you can't change after you've picked whatever faction, in quotation mark, which that being the god that you're actually picking. But you also do get a discount on certain tanks as well. So the gun gear, for example, you actually just get a flat 20% discount. And then as you make your way through all of the challenges, at the very top one for earning 100 honor, you will actually get yourself a 35% discount. Now, do I think that these discounts are actually valid, and does it make the price of these premium tanks actually reliable? So at a 35% discount on, for example, when we go over to the gun gear, this one will be, off the top of my head, is it 4,500 off? So it'd be about like 10,000 gold-ish. Now, obviously, you can calculate that exactly, but it's about 10,000 gold when you do complete the operation all the way at the end. So I would never buy it at 14,000 gold, and I probably wouldn't buy it at, you know, the 10,000 gold mark either, because you can just simply get a tank that is, you know, the same in the tech tree for World War II, so it's not particularly that much better or anything different to what you can already play in the tech tree. So there's that, but that will cost you like £35. However, when you look at the Valhalla tank, which is the one we're reviewing today, the Mjolnir, 17.4 thousand gold, and you can get a maximum of a 25% discount. So that is not particularly great. Equates to, what would that be, like 8,000? It'd be like 7.6 minus, so like 3.8. So it'd be about 13.9 thousand gold, or the equivalent if we were to have a look at gold. Obviously these costs vary depending on what country you're in, etc. But it'd be about £40. But of course, because of the terrible system that is, you have to buy gold to then go and buy tank, so that it obscures the whole fact that of what it's actually costing you to get that tank, which under EU law soon will be removed. That premium currencies, you cannot sell a premium currency essentially for a an item within a game, so you actually have to give the ability to purchase that tank specifically. You will not be able to essentially have a premium currency that hides the cost of what actually the cost of that tank is, so that you can't essentially have these predatory tactics, which is that, oh, it just so happens that the premium tank is not quite enough where you can purchase a 12,000 gold pack. It's actually 12,100, and the nearest to that 100 is actually 850 gold, so they essentially get you to purchase more than what you actually need for the tank, which kind of obscures the whole point. And most people are like, oh, but for an extra, you know, £1.20 I can get an extra 400 gold, and so it's basically like a predatory tactic to get you to spend more money on the games. There's a reason games, pretty much all of them, have premium currencies, and it's because it makes them more money for the same product essentially. So hopefully that will actually get introduced, and there will no longer be kind of premium currencies in the game as it currently stands, and that you can just purchase this tank on its own for the value of that tank, not, you know, this made up thing with these premium currencies where they define how much their own premium currency actually is, etc. Either way, different subject for a different video that we'll do, but the Mjolnir, it is like £40-ish, but of course you've got to pay more to actually be able to afford it if you've got 0 gold, etc. on your account. Is it worth that money? As I always say, I don't think spending £40 on a tank is ever really worth it, to be honest with you. But in terms of the power of this tank, it is pretty crazy. So this features 510 damage with very good penetration values for Detente Era 3. So this is an Era 3. And whilst you do have to deal with a lot of the Era 3 BS, what you do see is that the turret of this thing is not particularly very good. So it doesn't have any armor, but you're relying on the speed of this tank. It goes 75 kilometers an hour top speed, which is pretty decent. It's actually quite a fast tank. It's like a, what I would assume to be like a medium, but of course it's designated as a light vehicle, and so you get all of the bonuses of being a light in terms of when you move, you don't get the aiming, the detectability bloom. So that is a really good thing about the tank. It's actually designated as a light tank, but in reality it's essentially a medium tank. Now, one thing that we do also have is the average damage per minute of this vehicle. Now, as we've currently got it set up, which is basically boosting all of the damage per minute, so we have advanced loader, which I'd highly recommend having, and then we've got ventilation, which will also boost the reload slightly, not by a huge margin, but slightly. Essentially we can have even more DPM because of that. And then on the commander we're running perks like rapid loading, and then yeah, essentially just boosting up the reload alongside Born Leader, which increases the crew performance, which will then increase our reload, and the skill effectiveness bonus of 10% will actually increase our rapid loading skill, so it gives us 11% increase to gun reload speed. So that's kind of the power of having Born Leader alongside things that do really impact the tank massively. So yeah, picking your skills correctly is really important. So just under 7,000 DPM. The reload time of this tank to do 500 damage is essentially 4.41 seconds. It is crazy fast, and the amount of damage you can rack up against a target, especially if you're going for tracking shots, is outrageously good. Like, it feels amazing when you do lock someone down. We've got gameplay to showcase off this tank, the sort of games you can expect to have. Of course, you got 10 degrees of gun depression as well. It is basically what I would assume a light version of a UDES 1516 that you can get in World War II, for example. It is basically like a light version, and it feels really, really nice. The gun handling of this thing is very, very immaculate. 0.22 accuracy. Aim time 2.26 seconds. You don't feel like you're waiting around for a long time. You got decent accuracy on the move. It's not like you're not going to be hitting across map shots all of the time, but you can definitely do it if you are in those clutch situations where you just need to swing and auto lock someone. It can do that. And then of course you get all of the bonuses to camo and detectability. So you can see we've got 759 meters of vision range alongside 262 meters of still concealment, which is very, very nice. Like really, really nice. Of course, this is Cold War, so you know you have true vision, so people can see you. But if you're sat behind a bush, for example, it's very hard to actually detect this tank. It isn't the best in the game in terms of being undetected, because it's quite a big tank compared to your traditional light tanks in the game. I mean, if we pick up another light tank, if we look at the TCM, you can see the actual width and the height of this thing, very, very big. It's an easy target to hit, and you do have 3,200 hit points that the enemies will love to take away from you. But that DPM really does actually come out as effective DPM. It's that range at which you haven't got too little alpha, where you start to feel like, I'm going to have to shoot a lot to deal with things in the game. But it's also not too little or you know, too much, where you're waiting a long time in between reloads, where you can't re-track people with this tank. So it is like that sweet spot between low and high alpha, and the damage potential of this tank really is super effective. I love this sort of tank. This is kind of my jam when it comes to World of Tanks. I love the fast mediums where you can outposition, outmaneuver, you can track, you can do basically everything in the game except from having armor. And to be honest with you, in the game, as it currently stands, armor is just, to all intents and purposes, completely pointless unless it is severely overpowered. Like we're talking Object 477A Malo, where there are like basically no frontal weak points and you have to load Hesh to deal with the tank. So that is kind of my opinion on armor. Should you ever go for an armor tank if you're a skilled player? Probably not. You'll do better on most terms playing mediums or light tanks, or playing tank destroyers, for example, that maybe don't have the armor, and you get all of the bonuses to damage output, and mobility compared to a heavy tank. So that's just some extra things for this video. Of course, you do want to run premium consumables. This is a premium after all, and this one actually gets a 55% silver earn rate, which can net you, you know, 200,000 silver a game with no boosters to that, just premium time. Obviously, if you haven't got premium time, don't worry about it. You don't need to purchase it. But yeah, you're going to earn 100,000, 150,000, depending on, you know, what sort of game you have in it. Obviously, if you're running silver boosters, that can go up to like 400k a game, which is pretty good, I won't lie. And then yeah, just dependent on skill level as to how much you're going to earn, but the earning potential pretty darn good. Cost of rounds, obviously you've got penetration of 593 and 657 with your APF SDS, so they're both APF SDS, so both your standard and your premium. You've then got HET as your HE rounds, so if you do have to fire that, you can. Things that are very lightly armored, you can deal with those HE rounds, but the overall damage increase is not that much for a massive decrease in penetration. So like the variability of where you're actually going to use HE, pretty low, so you're not going to have to really fire HE too much, which is why we've only got 4 rounds. Premium, we're running like 20 rounds, 36 of standard. It doesn't really make much of a difference between the two. The only difference is slightly higher shell velocity, and your penetration is, you know, 60 millimeters thicker, so that can deal with some of those heavily armored tanks if you do come across them. But for the most part, as long as you're aiming for weak points and you're tracking people, you will do very well in this tank. So let's jump over to the gameplay and see exactly the sorts of games you can have with this tank. The first game then that we do have is on Airfield, and I really do like Airfield to a degree when the game actually works how I expect Wargaming intend it, but this map is not the greatest for a vehicle that doesn't have that much armor. There's a lot of heavy tank spots, there's a lot of positions that armored vehicles can do really well in, and unless you're playing in a high alpha TD, you can find it very difficult to actually chunk away enough damage in something like a medium, unless you start kind of really carrying the game and actually pushing on forward when you get a decent amount of good heavy tank players in your game. So The reason why we're showcasing this one off is because the speed of this tank to actually push forward and start doing things is pretty darn good. Now, obviously we can go 75 kilometers an hour. We are technically a light tank. You can see that we're bouncing off of the side of the Challenger to probably hit some terrible... Well, it's just a bad shot, auto-aimed. But either way, we are going to try and push our advantage now. We push on down, and we're going to actually move down into this spot. Now, I had never seen the Object 490B. It's been a while of actually playing, but it looks somewhat like a Malo, essentially, from what I can tell. Probably just not as good, though. But either way, it doesn't have a fully traversable turret, so the best thing that we can do is sit behind it, essentially farming it from behind. Now, we do have a tank on our left, so we're going to try and push behind this rock directly in front of me right now to avoid any shots from the left-hand side. This is what you got to do in a tank like the Mjolnir. However, the backwards reverse speed of the tank's pretty darn good, and once you've seen that the opponents have fired, we can go in and try and land a couple of the shots. And you can see the reload here, 4.4 seconds. And when you're actually using your enhanced combat rations, you get a further bonus to the reload speed, which is pretty darn good. And you can see there, unfortunately, the teammate just drove in front as we went. That seemed to happen like literally when I was playing the few of these Valhalla tanks. Maybe happened like 10 times. It was really annoying me at the point. So yeah, annoying. But in those couple of engagements, within the first 2.5 minutes of the game literally starting, we're up at 4,500 damage. We've got 2.8k assistance, and we've basically been going for those assistance tracking shots, which is kind of what you want, as well as actually spotting for our team. And all of that combined really leads to some amazing games. Now you can see there the Macarvo is going for a little shot on us, but we can use the auto aim. As I say, the accuracy on this thing's insanely good when you do fully aim. And even when you're firing on the move, which you can do entirely in this thing, it's very good as well. So we come up, it would take longer for us to actually aim, and we'd have missed the damage on the Leclerc there if we did actually auto aim. We do take the time to actually aim that one, just because we had the time and he was side on. Then we've got this guy who's trying to run away, as our team are just going to rinse him off. And we're up to 7.1k damage. That is literally what we're talking about. It literally feels like you're going to have like 3k damage and you're up at like 7.5. It literally feels broken how quick this tank can actually deal damage. And with 2.8k assistance, we're going to push on forward now. We're going to hit the T-72B here, and we're actually going to go for the tracking shot on him. And there we go, we get the tracking shot. We're going to go for it again here. And unfortunately, we aren't the one that's actually getting the tracking assistance on him, but we do farm up a little bit of damage as one light tank who just gets absolutely annihilated in just a second. He gets hit by one of our heavy tanks and then finished off for a little bit of damage. So we do land the game with just over, what's that? 12,000 combined damage, which is pretty good in a steamroll of a game. We're talking a super steamroll game. It really did feel very, very nice indeed. And of course, coming top of the team with 3 enemies taken out. Not that much base XP, but yeah, a 3-minute and 54-second game with 9,500 damage and a decent chunk of assisted. So let's hop on into the next one. Now, Nebelberg, this is a really good map for this tank in particular. Now, this was the direct game literally after we played the last one, which was kind of lucky. We had 2 really good games kind of combined together. But the reason why this map is very good is because there's lots of opportunities to either flank, to get round people, or to catch people off guard. And that's exactly what this tank does really well at doing, essentially. And obviously, if you get the opportunity to spot, you can spot. We're not really going to do a whole lot of spotting on this map because we are trying to remain a little bit more passive at the beginning. This tank is huge, remember. You got to play it more like a medium tank than a traditional light tank like you would normally see. Now, at the start, we kind of miss out on a little bit of damage. Maybe we should have pushed over to the right-hand side a little bit sooner. But we do catch a Marder out in the open, who, of course, does push out. We go for another shot on him, and literally 1,000 damage in like, what, 4 seconds? Pretty darn good. And that is basically like hitting a rocket on someone without having the delay, without having to stay out in the open where you could get hit. It really does feel amazing how quickly you can do the damage. And because the reload is like 4 seconds, you can track people, you can lock them down like we said in the beginning of the video, you can lock them down, etc. We land a really nice shot, lucky one on the Jaguar 1 there, but of course if you don't shoot, you don't hit, so we might as well go for it. And with the reload and the ammo capacity of the tank, we're not going to have any issues. We're going for the tracking shot here on the Leclerc. I was actually only aiming to actually track, but we apparently penned him. So yeah, nice to get a little bit of assistance in there, or tracking assistance in that one. We now have the Object 490B alongside a little shot on the Marder here. We're going to go for another one on him. And of course he moves directly as we fire, so a bit unlucky on that one. But we can push now towards this Object 490B. Move just as I fired, which is why we missed. And then of course just swing the turret and hit the guy halfway across the map. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. The 490B actually bounces off of us there, and that is because this tank has side armor, at least not traditional side armor, but it has side skirts. Now we're going to try and get back around behind this guy. We land a shot just as our teammate hits him after, so we get the full damage. And we got about 3.5k with 1,000 assist. Enemy team, they've pushed the western side of the map. We are going to have to push this side of the map, which is where we come in and try and get a bit of that speed play, where we want to go in and actually start farming. Now there's a Macarver over here. We want to go for the tracking shot. Terribly aimed shot from myself there, but looks like we can actually get that tracking shot off on the Macarver. He's looking at me. We're going to go for another one here real quick. I'm getting a bit concerned that he's looking at me, so we'll just pop out again, put one more into him, and we actually finish him off. So 4.7, 2.4, not bad. Would be an okay game. Like, it wouldn't be a crazy one for a Detente Era 3, but it wouldn't be awful if we did get taken out now. Obviously, we don't want to get taken out now. We want to get some more damage, so it's time to push in. This tank can certainly do that. We're going for the side shot there. Was hoping to try and get the track at the beginning. We go for a lower plate shot because this guy's going to try and push. At this point, I'm thinking let's try get the tracking shot on this guy, but we don't even track him. He goes flying past us. We put one more into him, and then can we get the final shot? Yes, we can. Straight in through the frontal drive wheel there. We got a light tank, and we get hit by a rocket just as we notice that guy go for a shot there. It goes flying into oblivion, and yeah, not ideal. Well, there was a light tank near us, but I think he's been taken out. We land one into the Jaguar 1 there. He fires a missile. I'm just going to stick behind the rock. No point poking it. And then now it's time to go in. At that point, I'm like, right, the Jaguar 1's hit me. Might as well go for him. Damage-wise, should have probably turned around and gone for the guys behind me, because they probably had more health. But as we're pushing the Jaguar, a little boy decides to pop up on our left here. It is the STRV, but we're going to just completely skip past him, and we're going to go for the Jaguar 1. We can take a hit from him. Obviously, he could potentially high roll me, but he's for some reason running away. Not entirely sure what he was doing. He could have got a free pen on me there. And now it's just, can we get any more damage? That is entirely what I'm after. I'm not interested in anything else. But this guy's apparently forgotten about me, and so we are going to come up from behind. We're going to hit him with one shot, which actually tracks him. That's funny, because I hit so many people, and it didn't, in the actual drive wheel, it didn't track. We bounce one off the side there. We come back around. We hit him again. And he is going to get one into us. But we basically got 3 shots off before he could even turn his turret around. And we can just land another one into him there for 9.1 thousand damage. And 2.4k assistance as well. Now there's a Malo on the enemy team. This could definitely be a situation where the Malo actually wins the game for their team, because all of our tanks are on lowish health. So we need to essentially surround him. It's the easiest way to take out a Malo. Our TD is going to go in. We try and hit him on the side on the move, but we don't manage to pen. And now I'm going to come in from behind and hopefully hit him there. So we do. We land one shot. Now our Malo hits him in the side, and then he is taken out. So looks like we had more Malos, essentially, the Object 477A. And so now it is time to go towards the light tank. He was spotted over near our cap circle, as well as in the middle. So I was thinking maybe we'll catch him in the middle. Maybe he's going to go and try and reset the cap. because of course then maybe he goes for the victory. Of course we can see the hit points of the enemy team. They're on 1%, which probably means he's like a one shot or very, very low. So we are going to try and find him. He's going to be trying to scurry around somewhere. Obviously we have that 700 meters of view range, which is outrageous. So we should be able to at least spot him somewhere. And we're going to move over towards this location, just looking around. He does actually get spotted. We hit an auto aim, and of course it tracks him, which I was amazed about, that it even hit. And then we go for that shot. Looks like it went in between the turret of that thing. And then the Marder A3 gets eliminated with that second shot that we do fire. So that ends that game. And of course 9.6 thousand damage with 1590 base XP, 5 enemies taken out, a pretty decent game. So yet again about 11.8 thousand combined damage, so nearly that 12k again, and that was directly after the last one. So very, very quick at racking up damage, very, very fast, and it feels like a really good actual premium tank, and it earns you a ton of silver as well. We weren't running ×2 silver boosters on this, so that is how much we actually earned, 205,000 silver with just premium time. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of the vehicle. It's a very quick mover, very fast, and can do a ton of things within the game. It's very versatile, and to be honest, this is probably going to be one of my go-tos for playing Detente Era 3 for sure. It feels really fun to play. I like it. It's cool, but of course you do have to spend 40-ish pounds, or like probably like $60 in order to actually purchase this vehicle, which I would say is not really worth it, as with most of the tanks in the game, I always say. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, hit the like button, and of course subscribe down below if you want to see some more, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.